I'm Rodney Ward. I'm local Georgetownian. I've been here all my life. Grew up here and got educated at Georgetown County Schools. At the end of the year, when I graduated, I was not going to college. Felt like I needed just go in the military. And me and a buddy of mine, high school buddy of mine, we joined the Army together. And Lord behold, I did not think we would stay together for 3 years. But we stayed together for 3 years in the Army. We went through basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Then I advanced training right there at Fort Gordon also. And then from there, we direct trip to Vietnam, which we stayed together. And from there, we left Vietnam and went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where we both become drill sergeants. And we got promoted pretty much the same time up to E6. And that was very good for a short period of time for that ranking. My time in the military, you got a bond, all your Army buddies. There was a bond there. Somebody will always have your back. And Jim and I, when we got to Vietnam, we was young 18-year-olds. We didn't know what to expect, really. We had training, but we didn't have this type of training. And we had to grow up quick. And we didn't do a lot of infantry type training. We was in communications. We kept communications in for General Westmoreland at the time. He was commanding general in Vietnam at that time. And of course, the VC, they knew when he was in and out and different things. So, and we got hit on a number of occasions. And I remember it so well. It was April the 1st at 2 a.m. in the morning. The first time we come under a live attack. And we got to the bunker. And of course, Jimmy was looking out for me and I was looking out for Jimmy. And we just looked at each other. I said, Jimmy, this is real, buddy. And that's really when we realized that we was in a war zone and our life could on the line every day. But we come through that on other numerous occasions. We got attacked, we knocked communications out, and we worked for days without any rest, sleep. And finally, our time come up and we come home safely. And I remember just like it was yesterday, we got to San Francisco through the process getting out of the Army, and they issued us a uniform to come home with. And that didn't stay on our back very long. we were told you're gonna get harassed, you're gonna get spit on probably, you're gonna be treated very ugly for your service in Vietnam. So Jimmy and I changed into civilian clothing, and we come home in civilian clothes. And that it should not have been the way it should have been. We were not heroes to people, but family's sake, we were heroes. And years later, finally, the Vietnam veterans are getting some recognition for their service in a war that probably shouldn't have been at the time, but it was. The war was lost in Washington. It was not lost on the battlefield with American soldiers. So we spent another 18 months in the States and got out together. And we remained friends, very close friends. We got this bond that nobody can separate. And he lives in one part of town, I live in the next part of town, and both of us been married for 50 years. So that's my story. My basic training was over at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Of course, at the time it was 8 weeks. And back then, when you left, you didn't see home until at the end of those 8 weeks. And only communication you had with your families and stuff, maybe a letter every now and then. But it was rigorous training. They prepared us to go to war back then. And you probably heard those saying, the brown boot army. That's the way it was back then. Things have changed over the years, but they brought you down. They broke you down to nothing and brought you back up the military way. So. Okay, it was a field wire situation. We had basic switchboards and a frame to that switchboard, but nothing through the air. Everything had to be run by wire back in those days. Of course, now it's different. But we had to pull field wiring, miles of field wiring, to keep communications up and running. So it was just almost manual labor. Big reels of wire, if you can imagine that, big reels of wire. And we're just pulling it for miles and miles. And but we kept communications in about it. And also we had radio communications, which somebody could tap into that. But field wiring, it was pretty hard to do that. So. Well, of course, we had crews working 24 hours a day. We had probably about 15 per location. And we probably had about 4 crews. Well, of course, we didn't do it every day, but we did 4 or 5 days a week. And but we was about a group of about 15 to 20. Well, luckily we did have some entertainment. They did try to entertain some troops. We would get these movies somehow or another and have a little theater there. At night you go see a movie at base camp, and they did drop some beer every now and then with you, so you have some just have some fellowship there drinking beer with your buddies, but that's about it. That's the way it was. It's just time for a little bit of relaxation when you wasn't working. But then again, even though you were off, you still had to pull guard at night, stuff like that. I mean, you know, so that's what we did.
Did you leave base much and go outside?
Every now and then we did. We did have to go outside to in the area of Saigon and what they call Bearcat area to probably get some supplies or this and that. But pretty much I stayed right there in the 2nd Field Forces in between Long Binh and Benoit for a year. Well, it was pretty sad, really, because we didn't really know how to act. But now I can think back. You said, you know, we were really some war heroes. I mean, we fought a war and come back home, and nobody didn't want to say thank you, didn't want to talk to us, didn't want to do that, and nothing like that. But I do remember going to see my brother. He was in elementary school, and now that would have been a big deal. You know, we just got him out of school, and you know, and that was about just a little family deal. That was about the way it was. It was nothing the way it is today, and I'm very happy it is the way it is today. That these guys are getting recognized and stuff like that now. And that's the reason I do what I'm doing now. I'm the post commander here at this post, American Legion Post 114, and I fight for every veterans out there. And so I'm giving back now what some people gave me years before. Okay, when I come back to Georgetown, of course, my daddy worked at International Paper Company, and I felt like I needed to go to work at International Paper Company. And I really didn't realize my hearing was as bad as it is. And I failed a physical at an International Paper Company. And then Georgetown Steel was cranking up. Since I had my military behind me, they was going to hire me, no matter what. I said, well, I just failed a physical at one facility, and I might not be able to pass no hearing test, but trust me, y'all hire me, I'll work. And so I got on the Georgetown Steel Corporation at the time, and I worked there 43 years. I went on the floor, working in a skilled job, and then about 4 or 5 years later, I was promoted to supervisor, and about 40 years later, I ran the rolling mill over there. I was a rolling mill manager with a high school education, which that don't happen this day and time. But my military background helped me prepare myself for the last 3 years in that top management position. Yes, I had a couple brothers that served, one in the Army and one in the Navy, and the other one, actually the National Guards. He served in the National Guards, and one brother didn't go. I'm a family of 5 brothers, 5 boys, and I'm the middle one. But again, I married a local girl here in Georgetown, and we have 2 children, and we got 4 grandchildren. But number one, when I got out of service, during my service time, there was a American Legion member here and a VFW member that gave me a card, honorary card that I can go in any American Legion or any VFW post in the United States while I was in service. And I did visit those clubs from time to time. And when I got out, I just told myself I will be a member of that organization and become a member of the VFW. They just recognized me for 50 years over there. And then I've been a member of almost 30 years here, American Legion, and I'm a community-minded person. Try to help these young people as much as possible. And I've been commander here now for 12 years, which that's unique. And it's just that great feeling where you help working in the community, you're helping young people. We sponsor Boy State and Girls State every year. We've been doing that for years and years and years. And we also sponsor baseball, American Legion baseball teams here in the county. And I take great pleasure to lead those programs and see these young people grow and become adults.